you know what's funny? All the baristas we've had on this show, the story is quite similar. Like, no barista joined the coffee industry without like having an inspiration from someone, but they just go direct from somewhere. What I'm trying to say is that no one has come on the show and said, I went to the coffee industry or to be a barista like because I wanted it. Yeah. So even your story is the same. Like, you started as a cleaner, then Calvin was here, and then he told you, can you compete me or can you outgrow me?
Yeah, in fact, he said, I think you'll be a good barista. Yeah. So he decided to pave me in the same direction. And he's the man actually behind my story.
Speaking about a man behind your story, you know, when I'm here with Saddam, you guys don't know the story behind me becoming a barista. Okay. Guys, allow me to introduce to you the guy who trained me. He's a mentor, he's everything. Has trained me how to become a better barista, because when I joined the coffee industry, these are the guys who trained me. So here we're chilling with the big boys, okay?
It's another beautiful day, another beautiful afternoon, or another beautiful night, depending on where you're watching us around the world. This is House of Talent Television, and this is the coffee break that happens for you and by us. You can catch us on our social media handles at House of Talent Television Uganda. That's on our Twitter handle, on our Facebook, on YouTube, or you could always go to our website, houseoftalent.ug.com, and you can catch all other shows, not only the coffee break. Welcome again to the coffee break. Like I said, my name is Emmanuel, and the coffee messiah, Amon Mukisa, is not here with us today. I think he's out somewhere trying to convert other people to the coffee gospel, but we will have him in next time. But in the studio with me today, I have a man who has spent the last year getting involved with the coffee business. He's a new barista, but he's also an engineer. We want to get more into his life and understand how he balances the two. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Andrew Walakira. Andrew, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here. Thank you for honoring our invitation. I know these days life is busy. People are out there trying to make that Kampala money, but thank you for taking your time and being here with us. So we just wanted to get into the show and find out, who is Andrew? You know, just take us back to, you know, growing up, and where did you study, what did you study, and how you ended up here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Basically, Andrew Walakila. I did my primary school at Good Times Kawala. Yeah, that's where I finished my PLE, that is P7, primary 7. Then I moved to Caltech Academy. It's a brother's instruction. So I did there 6 years. I was there from senior 1 up to senior 4 still. Then I went back for my senior 6. So after that, I went for my diploma in electrical engineering at Determined Business Technical School. Then when I graduated, I got a job. When I got a job, I worked for 2 years. And after those 2 years, I felt like I need to add my books up. So currently, I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree at Chambago University. Yeah, so that's where I am. So within the last year, that is 2020, I got an accident. When I got that accident, I was in hospital for 5 months. Then out of those 5, after the 5 months, I decided to venture into something new.
Yeah.
So there is a gentleman I met, actually a friend. So this man was talking about barista stuff. So I was like, barista stuff, what is barista? So he told me they do coffee. So when someone talks about barista, the first thing that goes to your mind, coffee.
Yeah.
But when I went to Google it out, I got to know that there are different spellings and there are different people, different professions. So I fell in love with this after I decided to pursue it. Yeah. So I met a guy who really loved it so much. So he introduced me to the guy, to a guy who made me where I am today. That is, he took me to Brew Plus Coffee Lab. That's where I learned most of the few things. And I ended up becoming a barista starting last year. Up to now, I'm still doing it. Yeah. Then I juggle my two things. I do my engineering sector, and then I do the coffee business too. So, and to that also, I learned one thing out of the accident, that if you so much tie yourself onto your career, you may end up in a different location. You have to juggle two things. Your career shouldn't be your final destiny. You have to venture into something else so that you could have your life moving on. Because I asked myself questions. I was like, no, what if this accident took my leg? So it means that
it would be done for you.
Yeah. So after that accident, I decided to be like, okay, let me venture into some other thing. Whereby if I'm not here, I'm there. And miraculously, sometimes the things that we jump into, sometimes maybe it's a good calling. It's maybe your purpose. How do you get to know that? Because I went to Brew Plus Coffee Lab. They trained me for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks I was already there. They started taking me for functions, introduced me to different coffee labs like Enduro Coffee, like so many places. So I believe that's how my life has been. It's full of ups and downs, but at least I'm grateful for I still have life, and I'm still pushing on.
Well, that's an interesting story, and you just mentioned Enduro. Every time someone says Enduro, we think about the Coffee Messiah, Amon Mukisa. I don't know if you have met him.
Maybe I have.
Maybe you will meet him. He's what we call the Coffee Messiah. He's trying to convert more people to get into coffee. But let's just take you back into your life. You said you went to Caltech Academy for 6 years.
Yes,
you were there 4 years, then 2 years. And after that, you went and did a diploma in electrical engineering. Most people actually, after S6, would be craving to go to campus. You know, Makerere, UCU, Chambogo, and all these things. Why didn't you at that time go to a university? Why did you branch off and go and do a diploma instead?
Okay, I decided, actually, it's a very good question. Now, after my senior 6, I expected to get a government sponsorship. And when results came out, I got 13 points. That is out of 20. There are 2 papers that took me off the hook. So I was like, I was not so sure what's next. Because I had so much hope in that government sponsorship. And currently at home, money was not that much. So I had, all my hopes were in that. So I was stressed that to a point that even universities closed, it ended this thing of recruiting.
Their intakes.
The intakes ended. And by the time I was out of my stress, I'd lost it all. So the only option, I actually thought that I was not going to go for campus. So there's a friend of mine. I went to their place. Then I found this flyer on the table. So it had Data Mine Technical Business School. So Data Mine Technical Business School, I looked at it, I looked through the courses, because I did PCM. So I saw a diploma in electrical engineering. I thought, when I looked at the amount, I was like, I can afford this. So I took it home. I told my big brother, I think I can do this if you can support me. So he's like, okay, as long as you want it, let me support you. So I went there. When I went there with my friend, actually we were 2, so I went there to inquire. Their intake process was still going on, so they gave me a spot. They told me you can start. So that's how it started, the diploma thing. So I decided I did a diploma. So during the due course, I met a gentleman who was at Makerere by then. It was like you took a nice step. First going for a diploma, because most people come here for bachelor's degree and they fail because electrical is kind of broad, because there is a lot of mathematics in it. So it was like, it took me like that's a big step ahead. So after the diploma, I jumped into work. Like I got a spot. Actually, I applied with my testimonial at a certain company. So that company, I had even forgotten. So after my last paper, we were there waiting for the graduation thing. So they gave me a call. We said, your testimonial good, you can come for the interview. So my diploma landed me somewhere. I got that experience.
Interesting. So out of doing the diploma from data mine, you've gotten a job. You talked about this job being you were very busy at the time and very taxing, but we don't know what kind of job you were doing. So could you just run us through exactly what you were doing after you got out of school?
So when I got this job, it's a solar company. It's called Solar now. So we design backup systems and we also install solar lightings just in case you need one. So this kind of job, you move to, let me say we're a client. So you have your hotel, you have your hospital, you have anything as long as it's a home or you just need solar. So solar, it's another private source of energy. So you call us in, I come, I see your place, I design a solar system. After I design it, I go purchase the equipment, then I install for you. So basically, it also involves a lot of electrical works because in case you don't have, in case your house is not wired, there is not any electrical wiring in it. We do it also, putting safety first. Then after, we give you a backup system that will help you during the dark hours. But sometimes it can be also the source of energy. If you don't have grid, I also design a system that can take you throughout your entire day, because you can do it two ways. I can give you solar panels. Now solar panels, these are the solar collectors that collect radiations from the sun. Actually, solar energy, it's the sun, it's the energy from the sun. It is free. You can never consume it all. It's always there.
Yeah, that's true.
So the only thing that you need, it's energy storage. That is a battery. So we design it so well that it will push you throughout the entire hours. So that's the kind of work I used to do. Design solar system, design backups, come, install. And the work used to be active because I would move up countries. You go Karamoja, you go this place, you go this place, you go this place, you go this place. So you even grow old before your older ages.
So basically you're well traveled. You've traveled to most parts of Uganda. Yeah, that's an interesting job. So during that time, you say that you had an accident, unfortunately, but also from your perspective, it was something that brought a breakthrough in your life. So what was going through your mind after that accident? Because most times when people get accidents at work, there's that depression and that stress that comes with it, and some people actually don't go back to do the same job. They always change. So what was going through your mind after that accident? Because I believe it was one of those crazy accidents where you're on top of a roof somewhere.
I was in a motor.
You were on a motorbike?
Actually, I was from work.
So you're from work heading back home and you got that accident. So what was going through your mind, after that accident?
Actually, for the first 2 months, I couldn't walk because I was stranded. So they took me to IHK. This IHK doctor, they told me you have to be down for 3 months. It was a blackout. Just good enough the compound was there for me. They supported me throughout the entire situation, but in my mind I was asking myself, no, what next? I didn't know, I had never tried anything new, so I was just there in the blackout. The first month, the second month, the third month. So in the fourth month, I used to ask myself, what next? So when they took off the cast off my leg, they told me, now you start to walk. Now I was like a baby. You walk, try to walk and see whether your bones are now okay. I started to walk the first month. I couldn't. And in my mind, I would ask myself, no, what next? And the company guys would tell me, like, after you're okay, we'll come back and work. So after, like, in May there, 2020, pushed myself to walk again. At all odds, I had to walk. You know, it was even very hard. You know, I keep on telling people, if you are still walking, you have your 2 legs. Yeah? It's not that the other people who don't work, or the lame people, like they wanted it to, but as long as God gave you that opportunity and you're walking, I tested it. Those people go through a lot. Like I tested it. You can't move. You become a burden. Yeah. You know, like each and every time you have to tell someone, you like send
help me to do this.
And you see that someone reaches a point and is like, so like, you know. So in my mind, those things would come and recurring. Yeah. So the 5th month, I had to push myself to walk again. I went for the physiotherapy. Yeah. I went for it on a daily basis. Thank God. I used to pray so much. I would tell God, man, I'm like, I need my leg back. I used to a point of not even praying in this like this. I would just kind of be like now, God, you see my situation. If I can't walk, there is nothing for me. Yeah. So miracles happened. I started working. Doctor sent me off. Then when they sent me off, I went back to work because I wanted money. You know, when you put money first, you're stressed. I was stressed. I went back to work. I told them I want. They were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Okay." But when I went back to work, and I did the first gig, second gig, and now I can't do this anymore. If I keep on pushing, I'll still go down. Yeah. So my mind was thinking. So now God brought me to this coffee thing. So in my mind, you know, when you're at your low point, it can either redefine you, or it can take you off completely. So I loved coffee. So my mind loved coffee so much. I loved coffee. Like I would read about coffee too much. So my mind, my system rewired. So I'm like, I made up my mind. I'm going to do coffee. In the meantime, so after that, I went back. I made up my mind. I have to quit this job, whether I have money or not. I have to quit.
And you
because
in coffee.
If I continue doing it, I'll still go back in the same position. So I quit.
Well, let's just hold on the story from there. We'll get back into it. You're hearing an interesting story about Andrew, how he started off as an engineer, got an accident, and ended up in the coffee business. You know, at his lowest moment, that is where he realized that he needed to make a change in his life and ended up in coffee business. We'll be getting to know more about Andrew, and later in the show, we'll also be brewing something like we always do. Do stay with us. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. We'll be right back after this short break.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Wait, yeah.
Welcome back to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Emmanuel. With me in the studio is Andrew Walakia, who has been telling us about his coffee story and about the different experiences that landed him into the coffee business. Remember, you can catch us on House of Talent Television, Uganda.com. That's on our website, or you can go over to our YouTube and our Facebook, our Twitter handles, and you can always get these shows live as we broadcast it to you. Andrew, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Before we went, you were telling us how you got an accident and that led you into a time of different thought. You were at a low point in your life, trying to walk again, then going back to work, doing 2 gigs, and then realizing, okay, you know what, I think I need to change my life. Okay. And earlier in the show, you told us about a friend of yours who's called Bonnie, who introduced you to the coffee business. So I want to pick up our main topic from there. You've been a barista basically for 1 month, okay, which means you've been practicing being a barista for a year now.
Yeah.
Yes, a year now. So what were your conceptions before you got into coffee? Did you even know there was a coffee industry before all this?
I know. Thank you. Now, at first, I didn't even think that, they do coffee, like, as we are going to go deep into it. Never thought it exists in Uganda.
Yeah.
I knew this usual kawa. So you just go, you buy kawa from the shop, you put it in
hot water.
That is it. So I meet Bonnie, he's telling me with coffee, you do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, what? And he tells me with coffee, they process it after processing, they roast it after roasting, they take it, they grind it, they do this cappuccino, they're speaking cappuccinos, lattes. And I'm like, I've never heard of it. So it's like, go and Google it. I went and Googled. I saw things were different. So the curiosity, I started craving for it too bad. So I would call him on a daily basis and I'm like, you know what, teach me coffee. I want to do the things. So it's like, now do you see the difference? I'm like, yeah, it is not the kawa I know. Now this is different. So it's like, okay, I'll give you some time. So one time he called me, tell me now, in Uganda here, we do it also. I'm like, no, but I saw why it's on YouTube and everyone was like, we do it also. So he took me to what they call an espresso machine. He's like, have you ever seen this? I'm like, I've never seen it. Now this one also brews coffee. So he put the shot of espresso. Kati in our local language, someone would say kakawa, kakenyo. So it's like, now you taste it. I'm like, yeah, there's a difference. And it's like, now I'm going to teach you the difference between this local kawa and this one. So that's how I started to love coffee.
Get that interest.
Yeah, the interest of coffee. The uniqueness they add on to it from the garden then to where we see it right now. Like it took me all through that process, how it is done, the different types of coffee that is consumed. Actually, for me, I used to know that coffee is the same. Just like when you're growing up, you know that rice is the same rice.
This is one type of rice.
So now they introduced me to different types of coffee, how they taste, the uniqueness in each and every type. So I'm like, well, everyone has to at least discover something before he dies, So that's how I got to learn into coffee.
Interesting. Yeah, I think also the first experience I had with coffee, it was like white people, you actually never see an African trying to prepare coffee. Like you said, the only thing we had was kawa. That one, you buy a chikumi, you put in hot water and you're done. So my first experience, I saw coffee and these guys were very refined people, taking coffee in small cups, speaking good English.
The neatness.
I was like, man, what is this? Why is this so different from tea? Because tea is just like
usual
tea. for
I tell her for them they go an extra mile, even when it comes to tea. You know what they call African tea, African coffee. The way they prepare it, you like it blows your mind and you're like, no.
It's really different.
This is so different. I need to learn how to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now you got the curiosity, you've got the interest. You've learned that there are very many types of coffee. There are very many ways of producing different types of coffee. You decided to get into a coffee school, okay? And we just want to know, how many coffee schools are there in Uganda? Okay, and did Bonnie tell you this is the only one that you need to go to, or there were other options that you had? And what was your experience like in the first week? Because most people get there and they're like, you know what, I don't think this is for me, and they quit. So what was your experience like in the first week of coffee?
Now when Bonnie got me, he took me to a certain place. So he took me there for 1 week. So in that 1 week, I was like, no, I need much more. So he told me I have a friend, he's called Isaac. Isaac has a laboratory. Actually, they call it a laboratory because they do cupping from there. Cupping is where you taste, like they taste coffee and everything. So he brought me, he was like, I'll take you to Isaac. He brought me to Isaac. Now, just like, you know, we grew up knowing that the only toothpaste we know, it's Daily Dent, you know? So when he took me to Isaac, I knew this is the only coffee shop, like the coffee school in Uganda, period. So I was contented. That contentment that I had, like I was contented. Now I'm in the right place because I saw this Chemex V60, this espresso machine, this, like everything was there, so I was contented. And when someone would call me and ask me, where are you? I'm at the best coffee school in Uganda, period. So the first week, he taught me coffee, how farmers deal with it, how they process it, and how it gets to our cups. It was an interesting story. And I loved it so much, to an extent that by the time we are into the brewing process, whereby you're now drinking coffee, I now definitely know where everything comes from. You get that appreciation. The experience has like really God has so much to like we have so much to learn. Because one thing that you have to know that God gave us our brains. And in our brains, he installed default programs. Eating, sleeping, what? And it left the rest of the memory for us to use. So if you limit yourself to your career, you don't get learned a few things. So if I had limited myself to the other side, I wouldn't have learned about coffee. And coffee blows your mind that because coffee, I never knew that. I used to ask myself, like, why do whites take coffee? You know, they take coffee because it has caffeine in it. And what caffeine does, you know, when I learned about coffee, like the experience was amazing because coffee has caffeine in it. And the caffeine it has in it, when you take a lot of coffee, there's this chemical that our body releases when you feel like you're lazy. Then the brain is like, okay, it needs to sleep. So you don't just sleep automatically and you fall off. The brain releases a chemical called adenosine. So it's the chemical that almost bleaches out all the adrenaline in your body so that you feel lazy and you sleep. So when you take coffee, a cup of coffee, that's why for them the first thing they do in the morning is to take a cup of coffee. When you take a cup of coffee, caffeine goes into the body. When it goes into the body, it releases the adenosine in your body and it increases adrenaline. You know, those rush moments that you have when you're so scared and you're thinking of what to do, that is too much adrenaline in your body and it is at work. So when you take coffee and you're from bed or you're feeling lazy during the day, that coffee helps to increase an adrenaline. When adrenaline increases, adenosine has to go off and you're always alert. So I learned all that through the experience of coffee, through their school. They teach you why you should actually learn coffee more. So I'm like, okay, coffee does this, okay, this is how they process it. You know, when they're processing coffee, let's go on a bit of this processing bit of it. When they're processing coffee, we know this local thing. From the garden, they will take away tundubali, they pour, they dry it, wait. After machine. But there are some other good ways. This coffee that you enjoy, they don't use that method. Actually, me, I used to think it's the same method. They have the semi-washed. They get that coffee from their cherries, red cherries, from the coffee plant. They bring it, they put in a drum, they sink them. So it's a process called flotation. After they sink them, there are those cherries that float on top. Now that means that those ones are useless. They take them off, then they bring up those ones, they put them into the pulping machine, they remove that the coating, the sheet, they remove it, then they remove it, they ferment it for some days. Then after they bring it out, they dry it. After they dry it, they hull it. After hulling, they roast it. They first grade it, because in grading there are those coffee beans that are small, there are those that are big. So in that grading, they have their screens that they use to take out the small ones, the big one. This one is good for export. This one is for our local people. You know, always the local people take what's not. You know. And so they sieve it. After they sieve it, then they roast it. So after roasting, then they bring to the people. They package it like this in such coatings. Then after, It's the coffee that you see, and you put in a grinder, you make your coffee powder, then you pull espressos. Yeah. So I was taught all that story, and I was like, really? This was in Uganda, here, in my motherland? I didn't know about it. And I was moving to different places and didn't think it was real. And actually, not to lie to you, people don't know about it.
That is true.
It's only when you meet a friend and introduces you to coffee, and you get to know that it's done in Uganda. And it's something that you can do as your second job.
That's true.
If you have a job and you're working 8 hours, and you have a cafe that can take you from 2 to the evening, that's another money coming in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's how I love the experience of coffee. And I fell in love with it. You know, you make a cup and you put a smile on somebody's face and like, yeah, thank you for the nice cappuccino. Thank you for the good latte. And I'm like, wow, this is coffee and it's in Uganda. It's not a white doing it, it's me doing it. So
that's interesting. So now we've got you to a point whereby, you know, you've got the curiosity, now you've learned all these things about coffee, things that you didn't even know existed in Uganda, you know. I know that most people think you can only get coffee in these big hotels or in these, you know, big expensive restaurants, yet you can actually make coffee at home, you know. There are very many devices like the French press and all that you can actually use to, you know, make coffee at home. We'll get back more into this. We'll get into the part whereby, you know, after learning all these things, what did you do? Okay, what did you become? What did you get a job at a certain place and all these things? But we shall come back to that after the break. And after the break, we'll also be brewing some coffee. I know for some of you always wait for this part. I know there are certain people in the studio here who are anxiously also waiting for the coffee brewing. We shall get back to that after this short break. Get a cup of coffee. This is House of Talent Television, the Coffee Break Show with me, Emmanuel.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They have moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Emmanuel, and with me in the studio is Andrew, who has been telling us about his story, where he started as an electrical engineer and ended up in the coffee business, you know, finding out things that he didn't even know existed in Uganda, our motherland, yet we are one of the highest exporters of coffee, I think, in Africa.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but there are certain things that we don't know about it. But thank you for sharing with us your experience. I think that the people out there who also just know Kawa coffee are getting to know that there's actually more. Yeah, getting to know that there's actually more that the coffee industry has to offer. Before we broke off, you were basically telling us how you learned a lot of things. So what happened after? You know, with your one-year experience as being a barista, did you end up getting a permanent job somewhere? Are you freelancing? What are you doing right now with, you know, the knowledge that you got from the coffee
so
school?
basically, I'm freelancing. My very tutor, Isaac, he keeps on getting gigs. So we do outdoor coffee gigs. For different occasions. Just in case someone is there, he wants to. By the way, coffee can get you a woman. Yeah, true. You know,
that's a very important point, by the way.
By the way. And some people nowadays they're using this as a trick. You know,
apply.
and people like don't know about this coffee thing. So if you bring your woman, it's there. Pizza. You know. So now you bring someone to make him a coffee with a hat on top.
Designed really well.
And you're like, bam, will you marry me? Definitely yes to. You've done a surprise. I've never seen it happen. He's seeing it on TV now, it's reality.
Actually, that gives me a good idea for a proposal, you know? That's a very good idea.
And so we've been doing these gigs. So I do freelancing. If someone needs help, I come in and work for hours.
Okay.
You pay me my hours. After that, I move.
Yeah.
So I'm building my two businesses. I do my engineering work as I'm doing the coffee work. But mostly during weekends is when we are too busy.
Okay.
When people are proposing, people are having these meetings, when people are having this. And there are those people who also want to make their wives happy. So it brings you and you make coffee, you give your wife a cake. You make a hat you give. So definitely that's how I do my work. I freelance just in case someone needs someone to freelance. I come, I do, after I leave.
That's interesting. So before we get into brewing our cup of coffee, do you see yourself getting into the coffee business like on a permanent basis? Like, do you plan on opening a cafe somewhere down the road, or you just plan on continuing to freelance here and there, trying to get different experiences?
I plan on starting out a cafe.
Actually, I have it in mind to have a cafe of my own, because I also want to transfer the knowledge I have. I want to transfer it to someone else. Yeah, so through my cafe also I'll be having people coming around. So I'll be preaching this coffee, like this entire business. And the only thing I've seen, like coffee cafes are in these, specific places whereby omuntu wawansi wabanga atambula gwata iso luguru ekigeta sala kuyita that's why they always know.
You just look and pass by.
They're like yeah, so if you have a cafe in a remote area, so you don't open their minds. Because trust me, if you go down there omuntu nombuza dine kawa mutunda bali, okay, you just gandhi like payo kawa, and you go to the shop and get you that. So when I have in mind to start a cafe in a very remote area, so I teach people this new idea, because the more energy, like the more knowledge that you transfer to people, the more upbringing that you, like the more positive energy that you expose in, the things that you, the more positivity that you're spreading. The more knowledge and creativity also comes up. Because for some, like for widespread cappuccino, cappuccino, latte, mocha, macchiato, americano. Now, if you expose to an African, Africans are very creative.
Yeah, that's true.
For what came up with a cappuccino, never know. If someone loves coffee too much, he'll come up with his own.
Probably comes something like Africano, like how you have the Americano.
And Chino, you know. And some people will start creating coffee beverages from their own people. Someone loves his wife so much, and it's called Annette Chino. You know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I plan on doing that. Freelancing will end one time, I know. I also have it in mind to be somewhere. And have a cafe, transfer the knowledge, teach if possible, and also introduce people to various new things. You know, the more knowledge you transfer, the more positivity.
Yeah, that's true. I like the idea of, you know, taking coffee out there to Umuntu Wawansi, you know, down there, because I know so many times that, you know, when you look at a coffee shop and you look at the price of the coffee, you're like, this one is taking my money for the week. But I think with the idea you have, it will really be interesting to basically take coffee out there and get people's minds away from this cow of Chikumi where you buy from, you know,
to
the
add
shop.
more value.
Yeah, to add more value. That's interesting. Well, we're getting into the best part of the show, I believe. After, you know, coming all that way, it's time for us to brew our cup of coffee. You know? So just run us through, you know, the machine that we have here. I know there are people at their homes with these machines. They have never switched them on. They do not know what they do. Okay, so just run us through this and just let us know what we're going to be brewing today.
So now this is it's called a desktop coffee machine. It's an home machine, by the way. It's not that expensive. Just because we don't do research. But this is something it's a budget machine. Why it's called a budget machine, meaning that someone to wants us to
can afford it.
You can afford it. So here. It has various parts. Here, on top here, this is where I put our water. So when you put your water, you close. There is something like a meter here that you have to follow. It can, if you put water in here, it's like a meter. It shows you like it can hold up to 12 cups. So if you have a gig at home, you can brew your coffee at home. So we have, now this is our decanter here. Put it in it. So now this is our decanter. So this decanter, this is where if we are to brew coffee, you open here. So inside here, it's where we put our coffee.
It comes with its own filter.
Its own filter. So before you do anything, you first fill up water here. You follow this here. You don't go beyond the max. So after you cover, then after you open this. When you open it, now today we are going to brew our coffee. This is an SL14 variety. This is from our very country here. It's from Mbale. You know Mbale is a very nice place because it is mountainous, and this is an Arabica coffee. It's Arabica. Arabica means it has less caffeine and it's kind of very sweet. You know? The sweetness, but it's sweet in terms of coffee language. It is sweet because we have Robusta coffee and Arabica coffee. Very, very strong. For 12 cups, you can use like 4 spoons.